everyone. Welcome to Ready, Set, Action. Today, we're diving into a topic that's crucial for any business looking to grow. We want to talk about using marketing to drive sales. So, welcome, Deborah. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, Christina. How are you doing?
I am good. Ready
I
for a year of selling and coordinated marketing efforts.
well, that's the way to do it, right? And I think there's so many times where you hear about sales and marketing being at each other's throats in business.
Yes.
I'm really excited to get your take on, what I feel are the two sides of the same coin and really getting them aligned for success. So, let's get started with understanding the complex relationship between these two.
Yes, you are 100% correct. So, I it's there are many businesses that still sort of they just don't allow the communication to flow just well between sales and marketing, and it really is a lot of missed opportunity. And I know you talk a lot about branding. HR and marketing, there's a lot of things that can be achieved when they work together and they talk about what the messaging and the alignment is. Well, from marketing to sales, I mean, it's a big deal, right? So marketing generates interest, right? It attracts potential customers. It also elevates the brand. All of these things make sales conversion easier. So, sales converting into actual purchases, everybody wants that in the company, but when you recognize the unique role that people play, then it makes a big difference on how you focus, how you give attention, and how you support that communication. But it's crazy, like even small businesses where there might be just a couple people and somebody's more sales, somebody's more marketing or execution, they still have huge gaps with what they're saying as it relates to the services, who they are, why they do what they do, and it's really a problem. It really holds them back.
Wow. You know, you're right. I think that I've seen that in my own lifetime, right? And it's not fun. It really it confuses the people internally within the organization, but also can confuse your clients too, right?
Yes.
So, how do how can businesses ensure that the marketing efforts are effectively supporting the sales goals?
Yeah, so we'll break down a few thoughts here. I mean, first and foremost, I think what you need to do is have a clear understanding of the target audience and what motivates them, right? So, this is going to allow you to create marketing messages that really resonate and drive them towards purchase. So, we've talked about this before. You've got the personas, right? These are personas that should be developed, and marketing will have personas of the prospect, the target audience, right? Sales does as well, but you need to find out how they overlap. And one way I like to do that is to look at the buyer's journey, right? So the buyer's journey typically talks about people early stage where they're not ready to engage with sales. They may not even know what problem they have. They don't know how to solve it necessarily. It's this early stage of discovery and education and things like that. Well, we're still talking to the same person that sales is. They're just in a very different mindset, right? So we don't want to say, hey, book a call with a salesperson, because there's no way that they're ready. If they don't know how to explain their problem or what all the solutions are, they're not ready to talk to someone. So marketing needs to know who you're talking to, but then also look at that journey to say, okay, as they're in this stage, they're trying to figure out what's going on. How can we help them understand the problem, that there are solutions? Sort of that middle stage, how can we help them how to vet all the different resources and solutions they have out there? How do they vet us versus someone else? Like, we can give them tools earlier so that it leads them right into sales. So a lot of that is really target audience identification and really figure out what motivates them. and I'll add what motivates them at the various stages. So someone at the company needs to be aligning these goals, right? And when you visually look at a buyer's journey, that's when you can start to say, okay, here's the message, here's what will motivate them, but also who does this message come from, right? And you can definitely take this past sales, right? But who's giving this message? Is it marketing? Is it via what tools? And then you can start to figure out where that crosses over. It also allows marketing to better support sales in their process too, because they may need some tools as they sort of transition to that stage. You know, that's a big one. So
Yeah, and I think, talking about the buyer's journey, a lot of times when they discover that there is a gap or something that needs to be addressed within their organization, they will start to do a lot of research on their own before they reach out to a company that might offer the solution that they're looking for. So
right.
I would imagine that having a strong online presence is crucial in today's digital age.
Yeah, absolutely. So, websites definitely often the first point of contact for potential customers, but you'll see trends that vary quite a bit from that, right? So, but when you look at the website needs to be obviously user friendly, informative, optimized for conversion, so that when you get to that point where someone is ready to talk to someone or learn a little bit more, you have different paths for them to take. But you also have social media and other digital channels that can really look at the wider audience. Social media channels, you really have to look at the company profile, but also other executives, other team members. The more you can get the employees within a company to be aligned about, they don't need to share everything that's posted for a company, right? So you may have the company profile, but if they could commit to one weekly repost, monthly repost with comments, whatever it is, if you can get a team mentality that everyone cares about having the best people, the best clients, all those things, you will really excel as a great company. You also, when it comes to sort of that first point of contact, you also need to understand how people find you, right? So if I go to Google and I'm searching for your business name, maybe we met somewhere, maybe I saw something elsewhere. Well, at some point I might try to get to your site and I'm probably going to Google search you and eventually end up to your website. But it is important to know what I see before I get there. So if I Google your business name, which you should do, and sometimes you can do an incognito view or search so that you can see sort of that blind view. But do you see a Google My Business profile on the right? If you do, what do you see? Do you see a website? Do you see some pictures? Do you see a logo? Or does it look like some, I don't know, weird picture, right? Like you had a barbecue years ago, right? And it doesn't even make sense, right? I mean, so try to be that person, right, outside of you and take a look. Sometimes your LinkedIn profile might outrank your website. Sometimes people have names that are competitive with other things. So you really need to know how people experience it so that you can at least try to, prepare. Because if your website's buried, but the Google My Business is there, take advantage of it, right? Make
Yeah.
it strong, post content there, put some videos because that has your web link too, right? So there's a couple ways to tackle this.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And you were talking about LinkedIn maybe outweighing the website. And I post a lot through my personal profile on LinkedIn rather than the business.
Yeah.
They say that leaders should do that, but um, this is all good stuff that I'm going to go back through and take some notes and and shore up a couple of areas.
Yeah.
So, can you give some specific examples of marketing tactics that could directly drive sales?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, content marketing is a relatively broad term now. So, but it's something that when you start looking at content, it can really be effective in attracting and educating potential customers, which is what marketing often does, right? We are early pipeline nurturers, is how I like to think about it. So think about the content like we go back to that buyer's journey, right? Early stage, they don't know there's a problem or they don't know there's a solution, right? They just don't understand it. So, how can you create tools for them to use to figure out what it is they need and how their life can be much better? I've seen a lot of successful tools with things for your boss, right? So you may be a chief marketing officer, you may be some other type person, depending, CTO. Sometimes you need something to explain to your boss why you need resources, right? Anytime you can get into that realm, I think it's hugely valuable because these are tools which help the person look good even if they don't keep your name on the document down the road. That is the person you want to talk to, therefore you're giving them resources, therefore it's a step in the right direction. So content in general, what valuable content can you create for them? But then also, as you look at your social media, your blogs, your videos, your FAQs, your web content, like make sure it's valuable, make sure they know who you are and what you can do, understand pain points that are common in your industry. So this is another communication area. When sales tells you this is the problem that people mention on the first sales call, well, marketing can take that as content to push in social media and write about and solve. So I can't tell you how many times that conversation doesn't happen, right? It's just some kind of brain dump from sales that says, here's what we're hearing, push that to marketing so that there can be action taken for that. So, all these things will basically let you position yourself as trusted authority and guide them. And marketing has the advantage of not being a salesperson in that, we do want the book a meeting, we want the sales, but we can also be a helpful mentor or, something that's really much more comfortable to a lot of people early stage.
Mhm.
Downloadable content, though, there's checklists, there's guide, there's white papers, there's case studies, all that kind of stuff is that longer form content I think we should strive to, because usually a single long form content can be something that lasts the whole year. Social posts each month and things you comment on and things sales uses, like do something that becomes 10 other things.
Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense. So, what about email marketing? Is that better to sit on the marketing side of things and the sales side of things? Some coordination there? What's happening with that? And is email marketing even still a popular strategy?
Yeah, good question. It's a great question because as you were asking that, I was thinking, how long have we, I've been doing this stuff for a while. How long have many times over 10 years have we asked, is marketing email still relevant? Right? It's funny because I swear 6 years ago, it was like, how much longer does email marketing have? But it's still holding on. So I think email marketing can live in both places depending on what it's for, right? So there is cold email outreach for lead generation, right? And that's obviously a sales function. There is not a lot of nurturing, to be honest. There is a sequence of activities. Some people might disagree with me, but it's not, to me, that's not as much of a marketing um, thing, even though we can execute it relatively easily. What I think it comes to play in is, let's say we have something, right? So I have a checklist for you when you're talking to different vendors, myself included, that helps you decide who you want to work with, right? So I give you that tool. Well, maybe that's early stage still, or maybe I give you an educational material that helps you understand how to ask your boss for money and how to know if you need this, right? So these are all tools that you might take from the site or from places. I can work on email campaigns from that to nurture you, right? So in that moment, I'm trying to continue to educate. I'm trying to get you to understand why we're different. I want to share some case studies so you know that you can trust us. So my goals in that email communication is very specific: build trust, elevate my brand, help you understand, just really get a sense of that relationship. And then there's other emails which are more sales focused, and even the sales sequences, which are much more one-to-one. Salespeople meet somebody at an event, they put them in a sequence to try to get that coffee meeting, whatever that might be. So, it's really still both, right? So, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, those are all great tips. And I think there's so many different marketing channels, right? With the social aspect of it and so many different strategies. How can businesses really choose the right ones for their specific needs?
Yeah, so that's where really a strategy, marketing strategy, and outside voice often can really help. Because if someone doesn't come out and sort of from the outside and say, who's your target audience? What are your goals? Let's talk about channels. A lot of people get very siloed in thinking they know these answers already, and they miss opportunities. The messaging is just slightly off. So even if you're just doing certain things as on a project basis, this is where I think you need some outside help for messaging and isolating the person and the audience and things like that.
I think that's spot on. And sometimes just having that person from the outside taking a look at how you're saying things, um, because a lot of times we think we're being very clear in our messaging, and it's not as clear. It's not resonating in the same way to the audience in the that we would want it to.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I definitely understand that. So I'm guessing that tracking and measuring the results are also important, as it would be in any kind of marketing scenario, right?
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. And what I see most common now is there's too much data, there's too much information. So it's really about helping people whittle down the amount of information so it is truly valuable to them. And if you've heard the term vanity metrics, it's still possible to show you some metrics that look really good. But if it's not supporting sales, if it's not creating a larger pipeline for you, it's probably not doing what you want it to do. So, helping people really, hone in on the metrics that matter, and mostly usually matter to a financial person at the company, right? So, there's kind of different types of data, but pulling that out into measurable things and then allowing you to make decisions based on that data, right? I think that because of the access of data, it lets us act faster. So we can roll out a quarterly campaign, and in after 30 days, we can try to see if we see anything that's concerning or encouraging. We can adapt, and then it can prepare us for the next campaign. So, the days of 12-month plans locked down with no, change, I just think that's over and has been over for some time.
Yeah, you're totally singing my song on that one. Uh, so to wrap things up, what are the key takeaways for businesses looking to use marketing to drive sales?
Yeah, so just to, I guess, summarize the things we've talked about, which is, the personas and the journey and aligning the message and all these things. But I think the big idea is that someone has to create a way for marketing and sales to communicate, and it has to be productive, right? So, one example was what I mentioned earlier, was just knowing what the sales team experiences on sales calls. And honestly, there's some great AI tools now for capturing meeting notes, right? So those meeting notes should go to someone in marketing and be filtered down to just show questions from the other person on the line, right?
Yeah,
How much great content could I get from that, right?
right.
So I think it's really about trying to make the most productive relationship possible, and really focusing on, just how that goes back and forth. I think marketing does better when it says, hey, sales team, here are new things for you, right? Here's a case study, which has a video and a PDF and a testimonial, and here's a templated email that you can use when you're talking to your prospects. I think the more marketing does tangible things like that, I think it's in marketing's court to build that relationship. Maybe it's fair, maybe it's not, but I think it's in marketing's court to show the tools, bridge the gap, and offer those things, and then ask for the feedback, because it just gets lost often otherwise.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I can think back to those organizations where we had strong marketing teams working directly with sales and how impactful that actually was to the sales efforts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You got to build that respect so you can both benefit. So
yes, absolutely. So any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
I don't think so. I think just build that bridge so you can both succeed. And sometimes you just have to, show people what you're doing and what you care about in order for them to understand why they need to give you information. So,
yes, that's so true. Well, thank you for sharing your expertise with us today, Christina. It's been incredibly insightful, and hoping that our audience found it as insightful as I did.
Good. That is my pleasure. I love to talk about that kind of stuff. So I'll wrap us up. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you have questions, just pop them in the chat, in the comments, and we will share materials and responses. We will see you next time on Ready, Set, Action. Deborah Horowitz and Christina Whitmer. You can follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Spotify. We'll talk to you next time.